In the summer of 2022, the city of Philadelphia held a much-awaited reunion. Despite the blistering heat, thousands of fans descended upon Citizens Bank Park for a celebration. They were there, clad in their finest red, to honor the 1980 Phillies, the first team in franchise history to win the World Series.
65,000 plus on their feet at Veterans Stadium. The Tiger needs one more. One more round. Come on, come on, stop getting out. 1, 2, big. World champions of baseball.
For many, though, this day was bittersweet. Just a few months prior to the reunion, the Phillies family had been struck by tragedy: the death of former pitcher David West. A 10-year MLB vet, West was known for his mound presence, sense of humor, and his late-night room service orders. As the setup man for closer Mitch Williams, he was a crucial member of the National League-winning 1993 team. West was beloved by his teammates, and as steady as they come, which made it a shock to everybody when, on May 14th, 2022, he passed away at just 57. His loss was a major blow to the Phillies family, but it was more than that. See, West had died from glioblastoma, a lethal form of brain cancer. Glioblastoma, like many cancers, is a devastating disease. It's also extremely rare, found in just 3 out of every 100,000 people. David West, however, was the 6th former Philly to be killed by glioblastoma. In fact, the rate of brain cancer among Phillies who played between 1971 and 2003 is roughly 3 times the average rate among adult men. This rash of disease was alarming and suspicious. What was behind this spike? Why only Philly players? And just how deep do the roots of this story go? The year was 1965, and all eyes were on Texas. It was here, in the city of Houston, that one of MLB's newest teams was unveiling something special. The Daily News called it the Taj Mahal of sport. Pitcher Jim Bouton called it science fiction. Team president Roy Hoffheinz declared it the 8th wonder of the world. Most people, though, knew it as the Astrodome.
The shape of things to come in our national sport as the baseball season gets underway. The spanking new Astrodome is the new $31 million home of the Houston Astros, a domed stadium that holds nearly 50,000 for a baseball game and more for conventions and meetings. The plastic ceiling makes it an all-weather stadium. The scoreboard is something. An opposition blast, and it cries, tilt.
The Astrodome was unlike anything else in existence. It was the world's first stadium with a roof, designed by famed architect Buckminster Fuller. Spanning 642 feet, it was inspired by the awning used by Roman Emperor Vespasian to shield spectators at the Colosseum. This roof was a miracle of engineering, but it wasn't without its problems. The Astrodome was originally designed with a real live grass field. In order to keep this grass alive, the dome was made transparent to allow sunlight through. For the fielders, though, this was a big problem. See, when the Texas sun shone through the slanted glass ceiling, it made an intense glare, making it nearly impossible for outfielders to see fly balls. The Astros tried everything to fight the sun, from sunglasses to painting the baseballs orange. But it wasn't enough. By 1966, the dome was painted over. Within weeks, the grass was dead. Now the Astros had a new problem. How do you play indoor baseball when grass doesn't grow indoors? Luckily, they had a solution. Just a few years before, a company out of St. Louis had developed a new product, an artificial material that could mimic the feel of real grass. Originally called chemgrass, it soon took on a new name: AstroTurf. In a time of space-age innovation, AstroTurf was the future. Sold as a cheaper, more durable alternative to grass, it replaced parks, lawns, and backyards. which brings us to Philadelphia. See, in the late 60s, the city of Philly was in the midst of a years-long effort to replace Connie Mack Stadium. Previously known as Shibe Park, Connie Mack had been the Phillies' home since 1909 and was in pretty rough shape. The city's attempts to build a new ballpark had been mired in controversy. The project was over budget and full of issues with construction. One thing that didn't figure to be a problem, however, was the playing field. At a price of $1.5 million, Philly had paid to have Veterans Stadium, as it would be called, installed with state-of-the-art AstroTurf. It was the 6th MLB field to have installed the product. For the players, however, this fake grass was not greener. By the time Veterans Stadium opened, athletes in other cities had been complaining about injuries due to the turf, which, upon closer inspection, was little more than a thin layer of padding atop asphalt. Phillies players compared it to playing on concrete. Fly balls hit the outfield so hard that they bounced over the wall for ground rule doubles, forcing them to race the fences. When it rained, enormous puddles gathered that had to be mopped up by a Zamboni. The worst part, though, as anyone who's ever played a July game on artificial turf can tell you, was the heat. During the summertime, the fake grass would practically cook players alive. Thermometers on the field regularly hit triple digits, sometimes as high as 165 degrees. The waves of heat that emanated off the field were visible from the stands. For all the hype around this surface of the future, AstroTurf was less resilient, more expensive, and more unpopular than expected. Or, as third baseman Dick Allen put it, "If a horse won't eat it, I don't want to play on it." Of course, this didn't stop teams around the country from adopting artificial grass. Between 1970 and 2000, 13 of MLB's 26 franchises installed AstroTurf on their fields. But who made all this AstroTurf? You might have heard of them.
Next time you fly, look around you. You'll see many ways Monsanto made your trip a little bit better. The luxurious carpeting of acrylan acrylic. The tables made of Monsanto plastics. The dessert cakes made light and fluffy thanks to Monsanto food research. Even the hydraulic fluid that lowers the landing gear is made by Monsanto. And when tomorrow's transports span the earth at twice the speed of sound, Monsanto will be aboard, surrounding you with the things that make tomorrow better. This is Monsanto today.
In 1901, a company opened in Creve Coeur, Missouri, a city whose name translates, roughly, to broken heart. Founded by John Queeny, he named the company after his wife, Olga Monsanto. Monsanto first made its name in food additives, artificial sweeteners, caffeine, and synthetic vanilla. Soon, they expanded their offerings to laundry detergent, insecticides, and industrial chemicals, which was how in the 60s, when the Astros needed a supplier of artificial grass, Monsanto was who they turned to. The 1968 All-Star Game, held in Houston, was advertised as Monsanto meets Ron Santo. But AstroTurf was far from Monsanto's only product. They were the sole producer of polychlorinated biphenyl, or PCB, used in things like carbonless copy paper. In the 1960s, PCBs were found to pose health risks. Some were mild, like acne and rashes. Others more severe, like heart problems, infertility, and cancer. Despite this, it took a decade for Monsanto to stop producing PCBs, and until 1979 for Congress to ban the chemical. Monsanto also made a chemical named... It's called DDT. DDT is an insecticide and was used for years by both farmers and the general public. Just like PCB, DDT caused devastating health effects and posed a major threat to wildlife, as documented in the book Silent Spring. Having shown their talent for destruction, Monsanto was contracted by the Army to create chemical weapons for the Vietnam War. Specifically, to create Agent Orange, which was used to destroy Vietnam's plant-based ecosystem. Over 7 million acres of forest were wiped out. There are many places where it's still impossible to regrow. As many as 3 million Vietnamese citizens have suffered illness due to these chemicals, while thousands of American veterans have endured health issues from exposure. The devastation caused by Agent Orange has been described by experts as an ecocide. After the war, Monsanto pivoted its focus to biotech. In 1996, they unveiled their latest product, Roundup Ready Crops. Roundup Ready Crops are foods, like corn or wheat, that have been genetically modified to resist their herbicide, Roundup. As a result, any farmers who use these seeds are forced to buy Roundup to keep weeds from growing. Now, I'll give you a guess as to who owned Roundup.
Roundup herbicide by Monsanto. There's never been a herbicide like it before.
Yup. Roundup Ready crops are also sterile, which means that farmers have to pay Monsanto for new seeds over and over again each year. Monsanto has claimed that its products are the answer to world hunger. I would call it extortion. In 2015, Monsanto was the world's largest supplier of seeds, controlling 26% of the global market. In 2018, Monsanto was acquired by the company Bayer for $63 billion. Since the merger, Bayer's market value has declined by over 60%. The company is currently worth less than half of what it paid to acquire Monsanto. It seems like anything that comes into contact with this company dies. Which is why, when Monsanto's name turned up in an investigation into the death of former MLB players, nobody was surprised. It was in 2001 that the headaches began for John Vukovich. Vukovich was tough. He demanded the most out of everyone, his players, his fellow coaches, and especially himself. Needless to say, he wasn't a fan of taking sick days. The headaches were constant, though, and painful. That May, he was finally convinced to visit the hospital. It was there that his life changed. The doctors had discovered a tumor in his left occipital lobe, the part of the brain that controls vision, memory, and reading. He began radiation treatment, but by 2007, his condition had worsened. Once extroverted and outgoing, John became withdrawn and refused to let his old teammates see him. John Vukovich died on March 8, 2007. He was 59 years old. In 1999, Ken Brett was going for a jog when his finger went numb. He didn't think much of this, since for a 50-year-old, he was in pretty good shape. Ken was known in his hometown as the most talented athlete of 4 brothers, a group that included Hall of Famer George Brett. He mentioned the numbness to his doctor, who decided to run an MRI. What they found caused their stomachs to drop. Like Vukovich, Brett had a brain tumor. Like Vukovich, Brett underwent multiple surgeries and treatments. And like Vukovich, Ken Brett died of cancer, mere years after his diagnosis. He was 55. In January 2004, pitcher Tug McGraw died at the age of 59. That December, catcher Johnny Oates passed away at 58. Both men's obituaries noted that they had battled brain cancer. In 2017, former catcher Darren Daulton died after a long fight with glioblastoma. He was 55. In 2022, when David West passed away at 57, he became the most recent and the youngest former Philly to fall victim to the disease. "It was just sad," said former pitcher Larry Christensen. Then you start thinking, whoa, why are all of our teammates dying? This was the question the Philadelphia Inquirer tried to answer in 2022, when they decided to investigate the link between these untimely deaths. They started, quite literally, from the ground up, testing old AstroTurf from the vet. They found 4 swatches of fake grass, which had been given out by the team in 1982. Tests run on these samples discovered the presence of 16 different types of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. PFAS are what are known as forever chemicals. They don't break down and can last in the body for years. High exposure to them can, among other things, interfere with hormones, harm the immune system, and increase the risk of cancer. They're also everywhere. PFAS are used in nonstick pans, carpeting, dental floss, and makeup. They're in the air, soil, and food. They're in your clothes, in your water, and your blood. But what effects do these forever chemicals have? Well, there's a lot we don't know.
Cancer. There's the issue that Veterans Stadium itself, it's paved over, but it was on a marsh, and there were chemicals from the Navy Yard there, and there's a lot of industry in the area. And then there's the fact that the AstroTurf was the early kind of AstroTurf. Now, Gary Carter didn't play there, also died tragically of brain cancer, but where he was, there also was AstroTurf. And I actually got contacted by someone whose father was an usher in Veterans Stadium, because we were reporting this story as, not the ushers, not the grounds crew, but, someone's father that died of astrocytoma or a brain cancer. There may be a lot more of it out there than we realize. So is it the AstroTurf? Is it the marsh? Is it chemicals? Is it something to do with exposed pipes? Is it the radar gun? Is it something to do with home plate or the pitcher's mound, by the way, how they were treated? That's an interesting idea. Or the bullpen. These things need to be investigated.
What we do know, however, is that the loss of these men left 6 holes in the city of Philadelphia. They'll be remembered as teammates, brothers, husbands, and fathers, but they can never be replaced. In the late 90s, as the era of cookie-cutter MLB stadiums drew to a close, so too did the popularity of AstroTurf. Today, just 5 of MLB's 30 teams still play on some kind of artificial grass. But this shift hasn't been felt everywhere. Each year, across the country, youth sports fields, public parks, and playgrounds are replacing their grass with artificial turf, most of which contains some level of PFAS. As of 2025, these chemicals remain largely unregulated in the United States.